So let us start with the human digestive system. And as I told you, that the first step of digestion, or the first step of nutrition rather, now I would say, is ingestion. All right. So the process of ingestion begins from mouth. Mouth is a slit-like opening where we ingest our food from where we eat the food. All right. This mouth is guarded by lips. So it is a slit-like opening guarded by lips. All right. This leads into a small space or a cavity which is called as the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is also known as the oral cavity. The buccal cavity is also known as the oral cavity. All right. Now, this buccal cavity, I told you already in the flowchart that there are three parts. The first one is the teeth. In your lower classes, you must have heard that there are four types of teeth. You've already studied this point, that there are four types of teeth: the incisors, the canines, the premolars, and the molars. All right. So when I talk about the teeth, what is the function of the teeth overall? All right. Individually, they have their own functions, because incisors are called as the biting teeth, canines are called the tearing teeth, and premolars and molars are the crushing and grinding teeth. Clear? Now, when I say teeth, teeth overall helps in chewing the food, and the process is known as mastication. The process of chewing the food by the teeth in the buccal cavity is called as mastication. All right. Now, teeth, I have already told you, are of four types. In case of adults, the number of teeth, if I have to write, the dental formula of the upper half and the lower half is 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. That is, the 2 is incisors, 1 is canine, again the 2 is premolar, and this 3 is molar. So this is the lower half jaw and this is the upper half jaw. All right. So in the half part we have 2, 1, 2, 3. This is the dental formula that you should be knowing in case of adults. All right. So teeth helps in chewing the food. By the name of the process is mastication. All right. Now let us move to the second part, which is the tongue. What is this tongue doing? Tongue is a muscular organ which helps in the movement of food while chewing. All right, inside the buccal cavity. If you chew your food, you keep on moving it from one side to other. So it helps in moving the food, and it also helps in mixing of saliva with the food. So that is the role of the tongue. Besides that, you know that tongues help us to speak. But what important role it has in the digestive system? It has taste buds in the form of papillae. Papillae are these peg-like structures which are present on the surface of your tongue. All right. So, tongue has papillae, which are the taste buds, and you know what is the function of taste bud? So, it helps in tasting different flavors of the food. All right. So, tongue has two functions. One, it helps in mixing of saliva, and bearing the taste buds, it helps us to taste different flavors. The third part of the buccal cavity is the salivary glands. Is the salivary glands, and you know that the buccal cavity has three pairs of salivary gland. There are three pairs of salivary glands present. Now, as the name suggests, salivary glands, what they must be doing? Yes, you're right, they secrete saliva. What do? They secrete saliva. All right. So that means saliva also has to do something with the food. Yes, my dear students. The first step was ingestion, which happened at the slit-like opening mouth. The second step was digestion. And please keep in mind, the process of digestion begins in the buccal cavity itself because of the presence of saliva. That means saliva has something special. Yes, saliva definitely has something special to do. I'll write the point on the next page. Saliva has the enzyme salivary amylase. The enzyme salivary amylase is present. This is also known as ptyalin. All right. So salivary amylase and ptyalin. This salivary amylase or ptyalin is responsible for conversion of starch, which is the complex food you eat, into maltose, which is a simpler sugar, and dextrose. Both of these are simpler sugars. That means the process of digestion starts where? In the buccal cavity itself. The process of digestion begins in the buccal cavity because of the presence of this enzyme salivary amylase or ptyalin. I hope I'm clear with three parts which are present in the buccal cavity. They are the teeth, tongue, and the salivary amylase. What is the teeth doing? Teeth is chewing the food. The process is known as mastication. Then there are 4 types of teeth. The functions you already know. Dental formula you can keep in mind for your own knowledge, that in the upper half jaw the dental formula is 2, 1, 2, 3, and for lower it is again 2, 1 through 3. So we write it in the form of a ratio, right? Now, the third is the salivary glands. 3 pairs of salivary glands are present in the buccal cavity which secretes saliva. Saliva is nothing but a watery juice or a watery fluid. Now, when is this saliva released? I'll also come to that point. So, this saliva contains an enzyme, salivary amylase or ptyalin. And this salivary amylase or ptyalin is responsible for conversion of starch, that is a complex sugar, into maltose and dextrose, which are simpler sugar. That is the reason we said that the process of digestion begins here in the buccal cavity. Yes. Now, I was saying about saliva. So, this saliva also has water. It has main component as water. It has other electrolytes also, which maintains a balanced pH in the buccal cavity. Therefore, children, you need to keep in mind the pH of saliva. The pH of saliva is approximately 6.8, which is slightly acidic. This is slightly acidic. All right. So, when does your mouth water? Tell me. When does your mouth water? Now, let's do a small little experiment in a class that right now you must be sitting and studying somewhere on a study table properly, all right? And I'm sorry, I'll break your thought process, because just imagine about your favorite food. What do you want to eat? Or if you're living in an apartment and there is a pizza delivery in the apartment and the person has just walked out from the lift, so the fragrance of that oregano, that brings water to your mouth. Or whenever you smell the cooking of your favorite food at home, so at the door of the home you are aware that yes, I have something delicious to eat today, and the mouth waters. So this is a reflex action. This is a reflex. You cannot control, you cannot stop. All right. So the watering of your mouth can take place with the sight, the thought, and the smell of your food. Any of these three or all three could collectively trigger secretion of saliva in the buccal cavity, what we say as my mouth is watering. All right. So this is all about saliva and salivary gland that you should be knowing. Coming back to the next part, which is the food pipe or the esophagus. Now, when I say the food pipe or the esophagus, before esophagus, I would like you to talk about the pharynx, a labeling which I missed. Pharynx, I told you, is a common passage for air and food. That means once the food is swallowed by the tongue, once the food is entered the buccal cavity, it has two passages. One is the respiratory tract and one is the food pipe, which are present. All right. So they have a different mechanism altogether. When I will talk about respiration, then I'll tell you why the food is directed in the esophagus and how it is done. For now, you just need to remember that this is a common passage for air and food, and the food that we have chewed is swallowed and directed here in the esophagus. All right, which is the food pipe. Now, children, let's come back to esophagus. Please keep in mind that no digestion is going to take place here. No digestion occurs in the esophagus. First thing. Second, no enzymes are secreted here. No enzymes are secreted here. The esophagus or the food pipe has mucus lining, which makes it easy for the food to pass down. And a very important point that happens actually throughout the alimentary canal, and that you have to keep in mind, is peristalsis or the peristaltic movement. What is this peristalsis? Peristalsis is rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the esophagus muscles to push the food down into the stomach. All right. That means here I am saying stomach, but otherwise it is to push the food forward in the alimentary canal for the further process of digestion. All right. So what is peristalsis? Peristalsis can be defined as the rhythmic wave-like contractions and relaxations to push the food forward in the alimentary canal for the process of digestion. All right. So that is what is very, very important, what you keep in mind here, because this is asked as a definition that what do you mean by peristalsis? All right. So let's move to the next part. Now the food pipe has shown rhythmic contractions and relaxations and the partly digested food. Why partly digested? Because it started in the buccal cavity. So this food is now pushed into stomach. So let us talk about stomach now. So when I say stomach, what is happening here? Stomach is a J-shaped muscular bag. Stomach is a J-shaped muscular bag. It has a lining of the gastric glands. The gastric glands are responsible for secretion of the gastric juices. Okay, so stomach is a J-shaped muscular organ lined by gastric glands internally. which secretes the gastric juices. Now, these gastric juices have three main components. One is the HCl, second is the pepsinogen, third one is the mucus. Now, children, in the buccal cavity, the pH was 6.8, which was slightly acidic. All right. Now, suddenly the partly digested food enters stomach where gastric juices are secreted, and you all know that when HCl is present, the pH definitely will be going down. So, it moves to 1 to 2. The pH decreases or drops down to 1 to 2, which makes the pH of the stomach highly acidic. So, the internal lining could be destroyed. Yes, it is an acid. It can damage the internal lining. So, to prevent this internal lining, the mucus layer is present. The mucus is secreted. This protects the delicate lining from being corroded. That means there is no injury happening because of HCl. But HCl is required. Why is it required? You know, there are functions of HCl. There's a purpose why it is being secreted here. Firstly, what it is doing, it activates protein digesting enzyme. Now, what does this mean? That means this pepsinogen that was present, this pepsinogen is in the inactive form. This pepsinogen becomes active and then changes to pepsin. So, pepsinogen changes to pepsin thanks to this HCl, because it has reduced the pH. Now, can you correlate? The pH was already acidic, slightly acidic in the buccal cavity, and it is still acidic in the stomach. Then why pepsin needs activation? See, all the enzymes that you will be studying are pH sensitive. That means they work on a specific pH. If it is salivary amylase, it has to give the pH of 6, it has to get the pH of 6.8. That is a slightly acidic condition. It will digest the starch properly. Fine. Now, when it has to be pepsin, to get pepsin from pepsinogen, that means from inactive form to the active form, it needs highly acidic pH. That means the salivary amylase stops digesting starch in the stomach. No digestion of starch will take place in stomach even though salivary amylase is present, because the pH has become suddenly slightly acidic to, it has changed to highly acidic. All right. Now, the second point why HCl is required, it helps in killing the germs that enter with food. So, some part of fighting the HCl is doing by making the medium highly acidic. The microorganisms or the germs cannot survive that acidic environment. So, this is what you have to keep in mind about the stomach. The pepsinogen to pepsin, this is very, very important, the conversion. Now, definitely it will have certain role to play, and that role is it will convert or it will break down proteins into peptones, which is again a simpler form, not the simplest. Proteins breaks down into peptones in the presence of this enzyme, which is called as the pepsin. I hope this part of stomach, the digestion which is taking place, is clear to all of you that it is a J-shaped muscular organ in continuation with the esophagus. All right. And here the gastric glands are present, which release the gastric juices here in the cavity, hollow muscular bag here. So cavity will contain the gastric juices, and this gastric juices contain the HCl, the pepsinogen, and the mucus. And what are their respective roles? I have discussed that in this slide. All right. Let's come back to the diagram of the human alimentary canal. Now, the digested food, again the partly digested food, because now digestion of starch has taken place partly, digestion of proteins have begun. Now what next? Now the next is digestion of fats is still pending, and mind it, proteins and carbohydrates have yet not been completely digested. So for their complete digestion, we need to proceed till small intestine. Fine. But on its way to small intestine, this C-shaped part, this what we call as duodenum, this C-shaped part receives secretion from two main glands, which is the liver and the pancreas. So let us have a look what liver and what pancreas are going to do. Now when I say liver, liver is the largest gland of the body. Okay? Liver is responsible for production of bile juice, and this bile juice contains no enzymes. Then what are present in the bile juice? Bile juice has bile salts and pigments. Bile juice has bile salts and pigments. Okay. Now what is this bile juice doing? Bile juice is responsible for a very, very essential step, and that is known as emulsification of fats. I will take up this term, and then it makes the medium alkaline for pancreatic juices and intestinal juices. To act upon. All right. So, liver is the largest gland secreting bile juice. Bile juice does not have enzyme. It contains bile salts and pigments. Bile salts are responsible for emulsification of fats and making the medium alkaline for the pancreatic and the intestinal juices to act upon further digestion. Then what are the role of the pigments? These pigments are responsible to impart color to the feces. The feces are the semi-solid waste. Clear? Now, emulsification of fats. Let's come to this part. This is very, very important. This has been directly asked so many times. Even in the case-based, it has been asked. What is emulsification? Emulsification means the fats are present in the form of a large droplet. This is a large fat globule. This large fat globule, when acted upon by the bile, gets converted into small droplets. Small fat droplets. Large globule of fat changes into small fat droplets. What is the purpose? The purpose is to increase the surface area for the pancreatic and the intestinal juices to act upon for the breakdown of fat. Then only fat can be digested easily. It's easier to break down these smaller droplets as compared to that large fat globule. Clear? So, emulsification of fat means conversion of a large fat globule into small fat droplets. And this helps in increasing the surface area for the fat digesting enzymes present in the pancreatic and intestinal juices to digest the fat further. I hope I am clear till here. Okay. The next thing that you should know is about the gallbladder. So, I'll talk about gallbladder here only because it's just a small point. Gallbladder as such does not have any secretion. It just stores the bile which is produced by the liver and releases at the time of digestion. So, whatever extra bile has been produced is stored here in the gallbladder, and then the process of digestion requires bile. So, this bile is released from the gallbladder and the liver also keeps on secreting. Moving to the next part, which is the pancreas. Pancreas are the second largest glands. The pancreas secrete pancreatic juices. Pancreatic juices comprises of trypsin, which is again a protein digesting enzyme. Then we have pancreatic amylase, and then we have pancreatic lipase. Now, how you'll remember the names? It's very difficult. No, my dear children, it's very easy. See, whenever word amylase comes, it is a carbohydrate starch digesting enzyme. Whenever the term lipase comes, it is a fat digesting enzyme. And other than that, you have two protein digesting enzymes that you can easily remember, which is the pepsin and the trypsin. All right. So, you can easily remember whenever the word amylase comes, whether it is pancreatic amylase or salivary amylase, they will act upon the carbohydrate, they will act upon the starch, complex sugar, right? Whenever the word lipase will come, it will always be responsible for digestion of fat. So, pancreatic amylase is starch digesting, or carbohydrate digesting, and pancreatic lipase is fat digesting. So, what they are going to do here, now since we are about to complete the process of digestion, the proteins get converted into simpler forms, which are the peptides. The starch or the carbohydrate begins to form glucose, and the fats changes into glycerol and fatty acid. For fats, glycerol and fatty acid is the last form. Even in small intestine we will see. But for starch, yes, starch will also convert to glucose. But for proteins, it is not peptides. For proteins, the simplest form is amino acid, which will take place in your small intestine. All right. So, this is all about pancreas. You should know pancreas is the second largest gland, having secreting pancreatic juices, comprises of the trypsin, pancreatic amylase and pancreatic lipase. And please remember, for this purpose only the bile juice was secreted, because these enzymes work in basic pH. They work in basic pH. The pH given by the bile juice becomes 7.6. So the process of digestion becomes easier because then the intestinal juices and the pancreatic juices can easily act upon. Fine. Now finally what we have is the intestinal juices. The intestinal juices are secreted by the walls of small intestine, and they are known as succus entericus. This is succus entericus, the intestinal juice, and it has all the enzymes which are required for digestion, which are required for the breakdown of everything. So finally we have carbohydrates. The complex that we eat usually is the starch changing into glucose and fructose also. Then proteins change to amino acids, that is the simplest form now, and fats changing into fatty acids and glycerol. So the process of digestion will complete in duodenum. Yeah, now you see that small T-shaped section. This is so important. The entire process of digestion is going to complete here in the C-shaped section because it will receive the digestive juices from all the places. It is receiving the juice from bile, from the liver in the form of bile juice, then pancreatic juice, and the intestinal wall itself is releasing the enzymes for digestion. Fine. Now what? Now comes the turn of jejunum and ileum. What is going to happen here? So now two steps have already been taken place. First one, ingestion. The process of digestion completes here in the duodenum. The third step is absorption. Absorption is going to take place in the ileum and jejunum. So the ileum and jejunum, here absorption of digested food takes place. Now why absorption of digested food takes place here? Because it has finger-like structures, and these finger-like projections are called as villi. These villi are richly supplied with the blood capillaries and the lymph capillaries. Blood capillaries and the lymph capillaries. Alright, so the small intestine, this part, jejunum and ileum, has a large surface area. So this question is usually asked again in the board exam, that what is the anatomical feature of the small intestine, or why is it well adapted for this process of absorption? 2 points you have to keep in mind. First one, it has number of finger-like projections which are called as villi, which increase the surface area for absorption. And secondly, they are richly supplied with the blood capillaries and the lymph capillaries for the process of absorption. So you have to mention these 2 points. You have to elaborate and write it in the same way. Villi are present in large number, increasing the surface area for absorption, and a large number of blood capillaries are present. So these are finger-like projections which are numerous increasing the process of absorption. Finally, this is absorption. So jejunum and ileum, what is happening here is absorption. After absorption, the fourth step cannot be explained here because the digestion has taken place, absorption has taken place. Now through blood, these nutrients will travel to each and every cell of your body, and then it will be utilized as per its requirement. All right. So glucose, the amino acid for protein synthesis is required, and then the fats, the glycerol, they are also required for synthesis of other things in the cell. So they will be transported and the assimilation will take place. So absorption and assimilation is done here. Assimilation होगा कहाँ पे? Assimilation will take place in every cell of the body. That means utilization, all right? And the last step was egestion. Egestion is the last step. And what happens in this process? Before that, you need to understand the parts of the large intestine. In the large intestine, it was this part, and this part. These three segments, I'm not naming them because it is not there in your curriculum. These three parts will absorb water. Till now, the food that was digested is all watery. It's all fluid. So now that water will be absorbed by the walls of the large intestine, converting it into semi-solid form. And this semi-solid form is sent into rectum, where it is stored for some time till it is given off. All right. And ultimately, the last opening is the anus, which is the site of egestion. That is, the waste is excreted out from the anus. And hence, we complete the process of nutrition in animals. I hope you have understood the chapter, you have understood all the concepts thoroughly. Please revise and don't forget to make short notes for your quick revision during your exams. Thank you for today. In the next class, I shall start with the second life process, which is respiration.